In the heart of the Wild West, a lone cowboy named Thomas rode through the stark landscape, dust swirling around his boots as he approached a small, struggling town named Dusty Pines. It was a place where fortunes were won and lost in the blink of an eye, where dreams were forged amidst the endless silence of the desert. But for Thomas, this town held something more than transient wealth. It was a refuge from the shadows of his past. With the sun dipping low in the sky, casting a warm glow over the rugged terrain, Thomas dismounted, dusting off the remnants of a journey filled with both hope and hardship. As he strolled into the local saloon, whispers filled the air, and curious eyes followed him like hawks tracking their prey. Word had spread about a rumored gold strike, and hope hung thick in the air like the smoke from a blazing fire. His reputation as a fair man preceded him. The townsfolk knew him not just for his skills with a lasso, but for his unwavering sense of justice. With a simple phrase, "Let him speak in peace," he had earned respect, diffusing countless disputes with honesty and calmness. Tonight, however, the tension was palpable, as news of a large tribe arriving with gold dust threatened to ignite old rivalries and greed among the settlers. The barroom was filled with the laughter and shouts of a few rough men, their faces worn by strife, but their eyes gleamed with dreams of riches. Thomas took a seat at the bar, ordering a whiskey, hoping it would numb the weight of decisions pressing on his shoulders. He could sense the electric pull of anticipation in the room, but it was momentarily interrupted by a loud crash from the saloon doors. In walked a group of men, their bodies tense, voices raised in agitation. It was the Hart brothers, known for their ruthless ways and a greed that knew no bounds. They were quick to cause trouble, spoiling for a fight over every penny that gleamed. Thomas sighed. He had seen their ilk before. "Listen here, folks," shouted Caleb Hart, his voice cutting through the air like a knife. "Those warriors from the north think they can come in and take what's ours. Gold belongs to us common men." Murmurs of agreement echoed around the bar, but Thomas knew better. He understood that conflict was brewing not just over gold, but over respect, culture, and survival. The Native Americans had every right to their land and livelihoods. It was their home, long before the settlers had arrived with dreams of wealth. Unsure if speaking up would make a difference, Thomas stood slowly, all eyes turning to him. "Let them speak in peace," he said, his voice steady but firm. "We may not know their intentions, but we ought to hear them out before drawing our guns." His words hung in the air, heavy and tense. He faced the Harts head-on, daring them to respond. But before they could retort, a distant rumble echoed across the plains. The sound grew louder, a deep, reverberating thunder that brought stillness to the saloon. It was a mobility unlike anything seen before, and it sent chills down the spines of those gathered. Thomas moved to the saloon doors, peering out into the evening light, where silhouettes seemed to emerge from the horizon. As night fell, they arrived, 300 warriors on horseback, their painted faces and colorful attire vibrant against the darkening sky. Each warrior carried jars filled with shimmering gold dust, a testament to their journey through the unforgiving terrain. The townsfolk gasped in awe and fear, recognizing the gathering was not just a threat, but an expression of strength and dignity. The Harts exchanged nervous glances. Caleb's bravado faltered as he realized this was bigger than he had expected. These warriors were coming not for conflict, but to share something far more valuable than gold, their story, their culture, and perhaps a chance for peace. As they dismounted, one warrior stepped forward, his stature commanding respect. With grace, he raised a hand, bridging the divide. In the deepening twilight, Thomas saw the tension dissipate. He had hoped witnessing their presence would instill a sense of courage in the settlers' hearts. It was the moment of truth, time for the settlers to confront their fears based on misconceptions, time to listen. "People of Dusty Pines," the warrior began, his voice powerful yet calm, reverberating gently through the thrumming silence. "We come not as invaders, but as brothers and sisters, to share our riches and our stories." He gestured to the jars. "This gold dust, gathered with the sweat of our brows and the strength of our hearts, is a gift, a symbol of our hopes for unity." Thomas felt a stir within him. Hope began to blossom in the hearts of the townsfolk as they listened more intently. The air shifted from apprehension to intrigue, and the Harts, for all their bluster, stood still, riveted by the warrior's message. As the night deepened, Stories were shared. Laughter echoed around the fire, and for the first time in a long while, a sense of community began to form. What started as a potential conflict transformed into an exchange that bridged two worlds. Through understanding and a willingness to listen in peace, they found common ground. And under the stars, amid sharing stories and gold dust, a new chapter began to unfold in Dusty Pines. The dawn of unity shimmered in the air, whispering promises of what could be achieved when voices were allowed to speak unhindered, echoing long past the horizon, reflecting hope, connection, and reconciliation. As the flickering light of the fire illuminated the faces of both settlers and warriors, an atmosphere of cautious optimism enveloped Dusty Pines. The cowboy Thomas stood to the side, watching as the two groups began to mingle. Skepticism was still present, but the promise of shared stories was a balm for old wounds. Max, a burly farmer from the outskirts of town, stepped forward, his brow wrinkled with unease. "What's this about unity?" he asked, his tone a blend of curiosity and wariness. "You came here with your gold, but how do we know this isn't a trick?" The warrior, whose name was Keme, met Max's gaze squarely, his dark eyes full of honesty. "Trust must be built, not given freely. We do not ask for your faith without merit. Let our actions speak for us tonight. We bring our gold to trade, to show that we wish to share more than just land. We wish to share lives, stories, and culture." As the fire crackled, Kime gestured towards the jars of gold dust. "This gold is not just wealth, it represents our people's journey, our struggles, and our hopes for a brighter future. We could have kept it to ourselves, but we chose to come here to this town to express that we are stronger united than apart." As Keme spoke, the mood in the crowd shifted. Lydia, a young woman whose family had suffered at the hands of raiders in the past, found herself stepping forward. "Tell us your story then," she said, her voice steady despite its quaver. "Why are you truly here?" Keme nodded, appreciating the question. "For generations our tribes have wandered these lands, living in harmony with nature and respecting the spirit of the earth. We have faced adversity after adversities, from droughts to skirmishes with other settlers, but fear only leads to more fear. It is time we stood together." The settlers glanced at one another, unsure but intrigued. They were used to keeping their distance from the native people out of fear, but Keme's words felt different. They resonated with a longing for something deeper than survival, an authentic connection. "Just last month a devastating storm swept through our valley," Keme continued, lifting a jar filled with gold dust. "We lost much, homes, crops, and even lives. But with the help of strangers, we rebuilt. We found strength in community." He paused, casting a thoughtful glance at Thomas. "It's our hope that such bonds can be formed here as well." The air crackled with possibility as the settlers endured the weight of realization. Conflict was rooted in ignorance, and knowledge could pave the way for peace. As laughter began to pepper the evening air, Thomas felt a sense of camaraderie unfolding among the people. The settlers were sharing their own stories of loss, resilience, and dreams of prosperity. This wasn't just about gold. It was about healing and forging a new path together. The night wore on, filled with music, laughter, and the mingling of cultures. Lydia's father, Samuel, stepped up to Keme with a look of warmth. "Your gold is valuable, but your words are more so. We've built walls for too long. Perhaps tonight marks the beginning of breaking them down," he said, extending his hand. Keme grasped Samuel's hand firmly, a smile breaking across his face. "Yes, let us break down the walls. Together we can create something beautiful, a future where trust replaces suspicion." Not far away, Caleb Hart watched with narrowed eyes. Anger simmered beneath the surface, and he felt the pull of old prejudices clawing at his mind. He wasn't ready for this change, this unity. He turned to his brother, Jacob, and muttered, "This is ridiculous. They can't be trusted." Jacob replied, frustration ebbing forth, "If we push them away, we may lose everything we've fought for." "Maybe Thomas is right, Caleb. Maybe it's time we listen." But Caleb was resolute, his fists clenched at his sides. "They'll take everything from us. You wait and see," he grumbled, stepping away from the warmth of the fire. As morning slowly painted the sky in hues of purple and gold, the first signs of friendship took root. Everyone knew that change wouldn't be easy. A long journey lay ahead. But bonds were forming in ways they had never imagined. As Thomas settled down, He felt a warmth growing in his chest. Perhaps this town wouldn't just survive, perhaps they could thrive. He turned to Keme, who was deep in conversation with others. It was only the start of a long road, one paved with challenges, misunderstandings, and healing. The night would end, but the energy surrounding the townsfolk would not fade. They would meet again, toward a mutual understanding, a journey of exploration, discovery, and unity. In this divided world, they were learning to forge bonds that would withstand any storm. And as the sun began to rise over Dusty Pines, it brought with it the promise of a new dawn, a destiny intertwined with the warriors who had brought more than just gold. It was a destiny fueled by stories, by dreams, and, most importantly, by the desire for peace. And perhaps, just perhaps, beneath the vast expanse of the Wild West sky, they could create a place where everyone could truly belong. As dawn broke over Dusty Pines, casting golden rays across the gathering, a new excitement buzzed in the air. The sun illuminated not just the rugged landscape, but also the hopeful faces of settlers and warriors alike. Keme and Thomas stood side by side, watching as the townsfolk began to mingle, their earlier apprehensions fading into curiosity and camaraderie. "Today is a new beginning," Thomas said, his voice steady but filled with a hint of awe at what had transpired the night before. Keme nodded, his gaze sweeping across the crowd. "Yes, a day to forge friendships that can withstand the trials to come. We have much to learn from one another." Among the groups, Lydia and a few other townspeople were approaching Keme, their faces lit with enthusiasm. "Can you teach us about your traditions?" Lydia asked, her eyes wide with wonder. "We want to understand more about your people and your ways." Keme smiled, grateful for the openness they showed. "I would be honored. We believe in the stories of our ancestors, each tale a thread woven into the fabric of our existence. Perhaps we can start with the stories of the stars." As they gathered under a sprawling oak tree, Keme shared the legends that had shaped his people's beliefs. The warriors joined in, recounting heroic tales of battles fought with honor, of the earth that had sustained them, and of the spirits who guided them. The settlers listened intently, their skepticism slowly melting away as they found common ground in the stories of struggle and resilience. Meanwhile, Caleb Hart was becoming increasingly agitated as he observed from a distance. His brother Jacob, more open to the change, spoke with a few settlers who had engaged with the warriors. "You're willing to trust them after everything we've been through?" Caleb snapped, a hint of disdain in his tone. Jacob shook his head, trying to remain calm despite his brother's aggression. "This is our chance to break free from the past, Caleb. These stories aren't just words. They're opportunities for mutual respect. We can't afford to let anger lead us anymore." Caleb scoffed. "You think they'll share their land with us? They're playing us for fools. We need to take control before it's too late." The tension in the air around Caleb was palpable, and others began to whisper amongst themselves as they noticed his attitude. He was the embodiment of the old ways, fueled by fear and rivalry, unwilling to open his heart to possibility. Meanwhile, Thomas felt a renewed determination surge within him. He approached Caleb, unwavering in his conviction. "Caleb, you're letting fear lead your thoughts. The world has changed, and we must change with it. If we remain divided, we will destroy ourselves." Caleb's face turned red with anger. "And if we trust them, Thomas, you think they won't turn their backs on us the moment we let our guard down?" "Unity is the only way forward," Thomas insisted. "The warriors do not wish to fight. They've lost just as much as we have. Their fears and hopes echo ours." The confrontation was interrupted by Keme, who recognized the rising tension. "Brothers, let us not allow distrust to creep into this fragile moment. We are here now to learn and to heal. If we are truly to become allies, we must find the courage to let go of our past grievances and seek truth together." The crowd fell silent, the weight of Keme's words settling in like a heavy fog. Slowly, Caleb's defiance began to ebb as he considered Keme's plea. Could they really build a bridge over years of division? In the following days, as the vibrancy of community flourished, practical exchanges began to take place. The warriors taught the settlers hunting techniques and methods of preserving food in ways that respected nature. In return, the settlers shared agricultural practices, helping the warriors learn to cultivate the land where they had chosen to settle. Soon, the sound of laughter echoed through Dusty Pines, a melody of cultures blending into one harmonious tune. Kemi and Thomas often led discussions about common goals, establishing a council that represented both sides, ensuring that decisions were made fairly. As weeks passed, the town began to blossom. The warriors opened a trade route, bringing not only goods but also new ideas. Dusty Pines transformed from a forgotten settlement into a lively trading hub. Merchants, artists, and families flocked to see this shared vision they had crafted together. But challenges still loomed. The Hearts, particularly Caleb, plotted quietly. Biding his time, he watched as the community thrived, growing increasingly frustrated by the change of heart that swept over the townsfolk. For him, harmony with the warriors was a betrayal of his family's legacy. One fateful evening, while the settlers and warriors planned a festival to celebrate their unity, Caleb gathered a small group of disgruntled settlers in a dark corner of the saloon. "This is madness," he hissed, voice low but furious. "They're taking over our lives, and look at you all blinded by their charm. We can't let them dictate our future." Some nodded in agreement, fear bubbling beneath the surface like a simmering pot ready to boil over. Caleb saw the flicker of hope in their eyes and seized the moment. "We made a mistake trusting them. Gather your arms, brothers, and be ready to fight for our land." Word of Caleb's words spread like wildfire, whispered in hushed tones, creating ripples of distrust among those who had once sought friendship. Thomas sensed a growing unease and called for a meeting of the council, determined to address the brewing storm before it could explode. As the winds of change continued to blow through Dusty Pines, one thing became certain: the road ahead would not be easy. Trust was a fragile foundation, and it would take more than words to safeguard what they had built together. The echoes of the past clashed against the promise of a brighter future, and the next chapter in their shared story awaited just beyond the horizon. As dusk settled over Dusty Pines, casting long shadows across the bustling town, an uneasy tension loomed in the air. The festival, intended as a celebration of unity, felt overshadowed by whispers of dissent. Thomas stood at the edge of the gathering, watching as townsfolk adorned in colorful attire prepared for the evening's events, the sounds of laughter competing with his unease. Kemi approached, noticing the furrow in Thomas's brow. "What troubles you, friend?" he asked, concern etched across his features. "It's Caleb," Thomas replied, nodding in the direction of the saloon where murmurs of discontent simmered among a small group of settlers. "He's rallying others against the warriors, sowing seeds of doubt. If we don't confront this soon, everything we've built could come crashing down." Kem's jaw tightened. "We must speak to the people, remind them of the progress we've made together. Fear is a powerful enemy, but understanding can extinguish its flame." As they navigated through the sea of colorful attire and bustling energy, the festival sparkled with promise. A stage had been erected, adorned with banners that symbolized both cultures, an emblem of hope amid the encroaching shadows. Thomas stepped up, calling for attention. "Friends, warriors!" He raised his voice, drawing the crowd's gaze. "Tonight, we celebrate not just our friendship but our shared future. What has united us is stronger than what divides." Cheers erupted from the crowd, but a small faction remained silent, including Caleb and his men, arms crossed defiantly. Thomas pressed on, his heart pounding. "We have witnessed how much we can achieve together, the stories we've shared, the lessons learned. Let us remember these bonds when doubt creeps in." But Caleb soon interrupted, his voice cutting through the cheers like a knife. "Is unity built on lies? Are we willing to forget who we are? We're giving away our future to them." His voice dripped with fervor, and the crowd stilled, apprehension taking root. Standing beside Thomas, Kemi stepped forward, his strong presence commanding respect. "Unity does not require the erasure of our identities. We must respect our differences while working towards a common goal. Warriors and settlers, those are not opposing forces but allies in this new world." The tension thickened, Caleb's gaze locked onto Kemi. "And what happens when the next storm comes? Will they stand by our side, or will we be left to fend for ourselves?" The air crackled with anticipation as Thomas, sensing the pivotal moment, spoke up. "We are stronger together, not just in times of peace, but also in struggle. It's our choice to reinforce that alliance, or let fear dictate our actions." Caleb scoffed, frustration boiling over. "Choices are all well and good until it's our lives at stake. Look at our families. Are we to trust that this will last?" At that moment, Lydia stepped forward, her voice steady and resolute. "Caleb, we've come too far. I've heard the stories of lost families, of suffering on both sides. It's time to break the cycle. We need to choose hope, not hatred." The crowd began to murmur in agreement, embers of understanding reigniting in their hearts. Kemi nodded at Lydia, grateful for her bravery. "We must not only commit to each other, but also hold each other accountable. Trust is built on action, not just words." Caleb's face twisted with anger and disbelief. "You think they'll hold true to their promises? What guarantees do we have?" He was met with silence, his words hanging heavy in the air. Thomas seized the moment, stepping closer to Caleb. "Our guarantee lies in our willingness to work together. In the coming weeks, let us form a coalition, a council where both sides can share their concerns and work through them together. We can create agreements that ensure our families feel safe." Caleb faltered, uncertainty flashing across his face. "And what if they refuse? Then we confront it together," Thomas replied, his voice filled with conviction. "But we must first give peace a chance." The festival's atmosphere shifted, and the settlers began to speak among themselves, rekindling the flames of hope that had begun to flicker in the light of doubt. Kemi took this opportunity to step forward again. "Tonight let us dance, share our culture and strengthen our ties. Let this festival be a testament to our commitment, our shared lives." The crowd responded, slowly breaking the ice that Caleb had tried to shatter. Music started to play, a blend of harmonica and native flutes echoing through the night. Dancers from both sides began to sway, beautifully synchronized, their movements a testament to the beauty of unity. As Thomas and Kemi joined in the dance, their hearts felt light. Perhaps the seeds of understanding had indeed taken root, allowing flowers of friendship and cooperation to blossom amid the thorns of distrust. Yet, as the night continued, Caleb watched from the sidelines, simmering with anger. He clenched his fists, brewing plans that would undermine the efforts of unity. For him, the festivity had been a guise, one that highlighted how vulnerable they had become. And while laughter and joy melody filled the air, Caleb's mind churned dark thoughts. If he could not have the power, he would do what he must to protect what he felt belonged to him. The festival continued late into the evening, but in the shadowy corners of Dusty Pines, a storm was brewing. Caleb's ambition darkened the horizon, a reminder that while they celebrated unity, an undercurrent of discord remained. Despite the joyful harmony of the festival, reality lurked just beyond the gleaming lights. Challenges lay ahead, testing the strength of every bond formed that night, proving that the struggle for harmony would take more than a mere celebration. It would take courage, resilience, and unwavering commitment from all involved. In the days that followed, Thomas and Kemi worked tirelessly, leveraging the goodwill fostered by the festival to strengthen ties and build connections. But the specter of Caleb's descent grew nearer, threatening the fragile peace they had fought so hard to create. Ultimately, the future of Dusty Pines rested not on the gold dust that shimmered in jars, but on the courage of its people, a test that was soon to come. The story of this town was far from over, and shadows were beginning to stretch across the horizon, hinting at the trials that lay ahead. Would the bonds forged in laughter and unity withstand the trials of reality? Only time would reveal the answer.